Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and we are getting ready to welcome AS Roma to Celtic Park in a Europa League game that really, right up until right now, no one really cared too much about in the grand scheme of the season and the consequences of, really where everything is. But with Wilfried Nancy parachuting into his first game of the weekend against Hearts, there's no rest for the wicked. It's a quick turnaround time, and this game now has a lot of meaning around it in terms of, how quickly can the manager implement his philosophy, his thoughts and feelings into the squad and start to get a tune out of the boys. Getting a result in this game isn't something that Celtic fans, I think, openly expect or demand, but it's all eyes on this game. How will the players perform? How will we tune up against a team that is full of motivation coming into this one? At any point in the video today, as we preview both lineups for Celtic and Roma, as well as try and predict how this game is going to shake out with a score prediction, man of the match shouts, and all that other good stuff we normally do here on the channel. If you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and get into the comment section. And I need to hear and I need to see your thoughts and feelings coming into this game. What are you thinking? What will the manager do? There's a lot to chew over in this one. Do we go a bit more defensive? Do we go a bit more attacking? Is it copy and paste from the weekend or somewhere in the middle between all of that? Can we win? Can we draw? Are we going to lose? Really looking forward to seeing everything you guys have got to say on the matter. But let's just get stuck straight into this one. Because as we look at our opponents in this one, Roma, this is a game that, again, going back to the Europa League prediction show that we did right at the beginning of the group stage, I think all Celtic fans kind of look at this game and think, yeah, we're probably not going to get anything in this one. I'm pretty sure this was a game, like when I looked at Roma and Feyenoord, I kind of imagined both of them weren't going to go very well, and I did kind of float the idea that if you were going to get points against the grain, it probably, in my opinion, would have been Roma at home. Now, away to Midtjylland and away to Feyenoord, they both kind of went their own ways, for better and for worse, I suppose, which takes, I think, even more pressure, points-wise, actually, off the fixture. But Roma, at the moment, are currently sitting 4th in Serie A. They were actually flying a little bit higher, but after a couple of results going against them recently, one of them against Napoli, which was a bit of a 6-point swing, if you like. They're finding themselves in 4th, and they're maybe not quite detached from the top 3, but they're certainly in danger of that happening. And in the Europa League, they're currently sitting in 15th at the moment on 9 points. Now, Celtic fans will be very well aware of the analysis of the Europa League and the new group stage format last season to this season, and us individually, we're really thinking, like, if we get to 11 points, we should be quite cool. If we get to 10, we should be in the picture. Anything less than that is not going to do. And Roma, with 3 games to go, are currently sitting on 9 points in 15th, so you'd maybe think, okay, they're sitting quite pretty. But Roma's 2 games after Celtic is Stuttgart and Panathinaikos, which, again, looking at where they're at right now, they're not games that Roma can look at on the fixture list on the calendar and go, oh yeah, we're going to win those games, no problem at all, and secure Europa League qualification, at least into the playoff round. They will be 100% looking at this fixture in that way. If they win against us, they get to 12 points, and really then, no matter what happens in the final 2 games, that should be more than enough to get them over the line, allowing them to maybe focus on that deficit that they're building up domestically on both the Milan clubs as well as Napoli, with the fixtures coming thick and fast. Roma have actually already been to Glasgow this season. They went and played Rangers. I think this was on match day 4 or something like that of the Europa League. I'm pretty sure this was a Danny Röhl operation as well. Rangers set up in a not too dissimilar shape to what you were expecting to see from Celtic. And from Roma, they've been very consistent in their style and their tactics. Not even just under current manager Gasperini, but the last 2 managers of the Roma squad has been consistently kind of managed and curated with the managers that they've had. That really, they've not really changed their shape of their system for the last 2 or 3 seasons, despite having Jose Mourinho, Claudio Ranieri, even Daniele De Rossi, never mind Gasperini now in charge. And there's not too many new faces in this squad over like a big stretch of time. Quite a consistent squad for the most part. And they got out of Ibrox 2-0 winners in this one. They also beat Midtjylland 2-1, which is another kind of point of reference for Celtic fans. And again, both the shapes and both the personnel that we've seen in these Europa League games against Rangers and Midtjylland, are quite consistent again. This is the team they fielded against Napoli, which you've got to think, I know Dovbike's injured, but outside of that, what they imagine to be their strongest 11, because this was a real 6-pointer in the league, obviously didn't go the way of them. And this is the team they played in their last match, where they lost 1-0 to Cagliari. Now, Celtic actually gets sent off in the 52nd minute. I know there was a lot of Celtic fans that were big fans of the Roma third kit that came out this year, and Celtic is definitely one of the top names to be getting on the back of one of them if you do indulge. But I do think, like, Cagliari is a team that Roma expect to beat. And when you look at some of the players that came off the bench or didn't feature at all, they definitely went into this game trying to prep and trying to get ready for playing against us, because they will see this as 3 points that they desperately want. And the manager Gasperini, you're maybe thinking that name rings a bell. He was the Atalanta manager for a number of years, including when we met them in the Champions League. So again, he'll be quite familiar with us, although last time we went to Bergamo, so it'll be his first trip to paradise, to Celtic Park, as it will be for, I think, basically every Roma player. And this is the Roma predicted 11 that we've got coming into this game from the local expert on the website that we reference here. Roma need to get back to winning ways. The starting lineup should be close to full strength with only a few players likely to be rested. Maybe Zielinski could come into defence. Celtic is suspended in the league, so he's going to play this one. Wesley will be back, and in midfield, one of Kone or Cristante could be rested. In attack, it looks to be Dybala in place of Ferguson, who's failed to impress, but El Shaarawy has typically been the cup specialist, and he could come back in ahead of Pellegrini. Personally, I don't see it that way. This is the way I imagine Roma are going to come into this, because I do think, number one, they see this as an absolute must-win. They have to get the 3 points here. I think they'll keep Pellegrini in attack. I think Dybala's, of course, going to start up front. But I think in midfield, they're not going to rest Kone or Cristante for me, personally. I think they'll start with both of them. Both these guys are huge presences in the middle of the pitch, and will, if you're looking at Celtic in the way that we're expecting to line up, particularly with the way we lined up against Hearts with the new Wilfried Nancy system, I think you want warriors. I think you want combatants in your midfield, and Gasperini and Roma, I think we'll just go with Cristante and Kone. Cristante in particular, very, very effective and dangerous at set pieces. Basically a defender that's really good at playing in midfield for the most part. El Shaarawy has been around the block for so long. We all know about him, pace in the wide areas, and he likes to get towards goal. Pellegrini, much more of the playmaker, and having guys like Sula that can do that El Shaarawy type role, as well as Dybala dropping into pockets of play to link things up. I think they've got enough routes to goal in this front three to be the way that they're going to pan out, essentially. Now, this is a Celtic team that played at the weekend, and thinking back to the analysis we did post-match coming out of the Hearts game, I think this worked really well, but there was a few things that clearly didn't work that great. I think it felt like there was a bit of a disconnect in the midfield shape. I kind of put a bit of that down to Engels and Hatate being on the same side of the pitch. We definitely seen a better turnout from Yang on the left. Tuneke could have been, you know, if Dyson had finished his dinner, Tuneke could have been seen to be very effective in the left in the first half. So there's maybe sliding doors things that kind of, you know, put the fly in the ointment of Tuneke's performance perhaps at the weekend. So I'm not too sure how the manager will read the disconnect that we had in the team. He did take off Negren as one of the first substitutions, and of course, like we mentioned, Tuneke and Yang swap sides in here. So I do think that problem they identified in match is going to be the main problem he looks to identify coming into this match. This is the available squad that we've got for this game, and you know, I don't think there's going to be too many I don't think there's going to be too many left field crazy things that happen, although I do think there is some room for it, because like you know, let's get one thing right. Let's put these guys to one side for the minute. We all seen that Trusty isn't like, he wasn't bad. He actually played kind of well, at least statistically. The statistics came out for him quite well, and you know, he didn't cut the defence open. He never really gave us a mirror image of what Tierney was giving us, for example, which I think is the idea. And I wouldn't rule out something different coming into this position here instead of Trusty. Whether that could be something a bit more traditional, like a JSP coming in, a Dane Murray, maybe even an Anthony Ralston. And last time we mentioned that on the Anansi video, some of you were coming at me, but it's genuinely, like, maybe you can see now after Tierney's played, like, it's just having that idea to be able to break into some space and, you know, operate at a kind of winger position if, you know, Negren is nipping in tighter, and also like Yang's already burst forward. Can you be that auxiliary kind of wide player? And in defence, you're looking to just basically be a wide centre-back, which Tierney was pretty good at. And Ralston, for where he's at right now, I'm quite convinced he's maybe been carrying an injury or something, because he's really not looked himself for the last month or two. I wouldn't totally rule it out. I also think in this wacky, like, how do you get the balance into the back three type thing? I know Bernardo really fancies himself as an attacking midfielder and everything else, right? But I genuinely think, see that ball playing, progressing centre-back thing, like, Bernardo might not be too bad at that, particularly even on the right of midfield, where you're asking him to break the lines anyway. That's something he wants to do. We've seen Wilfried Nancy at Columbus Crew and Montreal playing midfielders in centre-back and giving them either the licence to be what McGregor used to be for Rodgers, that metronome, that guy that gets on the ball 1,000 times in the game and ticks the play over. And some of them have been a bit more advanced, a bit more aggressive, a bit more disgusting to play against, you know, where they will just say, I'm not playing centre-back for 2 minutes and I'm just going to go and attack midfield. And again, we've seen Tierney to good effect do that at the weekend on the left-hand side. So I think Bernardo's maybe the top candidate to be that. And as I say this, I can hear he's typing away in the comments already, saying, "What about Engels?" By the way, there's maybe a discussion to be had about that. But when it comes to Engels in any deep position in the team, even under Martin O'Neill and everything else as well, he's not a stopper. He's not an enforcer. He's not a defensive guy. He is, I don't really like the term box-to-box midfield, so I don't really think that paints the picture of Engels pretty well. And like I've said before on the channel, like when Engels is being utilised well, he is like just a massive cog in the engine, just a guy that really helps everything else cycle and move over. He can be dirty when he needs to be, shoulder to shoulder. He's got a good range of passing. Physically doesn't let the opposition get a foothold in the game in the middle of the pitch, and defensively gives us all. I know he got caught playing everyone on side at the weekend, but him filling in for Tierney was a long busting effort, and fair play to him for that. But I don't think you want this guy patrolling in front of the defence and sweeping things up. It just doesn't seem to be his natural bag, and putting him all the way into defence, where when he's going to be in 1v1 situations with tricky wingers and inventive attackers, particularly for a team like Roma, I don't know. It could work, who knows, but yeah, I'm not too sure. I don't think we're going to get any wacky alterations into the back three, to be quite honest with you, but I do think that's something that is on the drawing board. I do think that's something the manager will be imagining and working through this week, and I just wouldn't rule it out, quite frankly. Now, Yang played really well on both sides of the pitch at the weekend. Tunetke, I think jury's out. The manager, you can imagine him looking at the game again and going, if Dyson finishes those chances, Tunetke actually did really well. He exploded into space when it was on. And even with looking at Roma, then they're going to be like man for man against us in a lot of ways, system wise. If the boy Celtic is coming right up the right hand side, we'll look at Roma in a second. Tunetke could be brilliant at getting into those pockets, getting into a 2v1 situation with like another one of the midfielders against one of the centre backs in the back three and try and create some chances. So, I wouldn't rule out it keeps the wing backs, but I think if you were to look at the weekend and say, how do you make the wing back situation better than what it was at the weekend? I think you have to have Yang on the left. I've even seen, and we'll get to it later, some other crazy situations you can maybe think about. We can't see Tunetke playing on the right. For some reason, nobody's done it. No manager has played him on the right. And I wouldn't be against Donovan filling in this situation. I do think he's the only, like Ralston can't do this shift at the moment. I don't even think Tierney could do it on the left either, to be honest with you. But Donovan is just, for all intents and purposes, what Yang gives you in that role at the weekend is good physicality and just great determination, drive, and endeavour is probably a great word of putting around it. And Donovan can give you that as well. Now the difference here is it's against Roma as well. It's a kind of step up in trip. It's a step up in class. Donovan's played a significant amount in Europa League already, so again, if we're going to try and nurture this guy and bring him through, this is maybe a way you improve the wing back situation from the weekend. When we look at the attack midfield positions, I personally did feel that there was a really big disconnect. If I could just move some guys to the side for a second, where, like I said, sometimes Hatate was deeper than these two guys, and it felt like between Engels and Hatate, they just really got in each other's way. And whenever Negren and Hatate were in and around the final third, I think they had a plethora, a wealth of options, and I think they could have done better with them. And I think with more reps in this system, they will do better with them. And I'm inclined to think the manager is probably going to keep the midfield together that started against Hearts and try and harmonise, try and synergise, try and get them to be coherent together sooner rather than later, because this will be really, for me as a, whenever I've did coaching and all this kind of thing, and even when I'm doing all this stuff on YouTube and analysis and watching things, for me, every team is built around midfield. And I know everyone says you can't do this without scoring goals and you can't do this without having a solid defence and all the rest of it. But for me, the midfield, if you think about all the cliches, the heartbeat of the team, the engine room and all that stuff, it's so accurate. The midfield is what will make and break every system for me. And I think that's where he's probably going to try and maintain some consistency. We can all see the value that Balikwisha on profile and on, how he was presented to us, how we've seen him at Antwerp, could offer into here. Negren did come off for Johnny Kenny to add some pace into this situation. Again, Luke McKeown could maybe offer something similar, as could Balikwisha in that regard. And Bernardo's going to be chapping on the door saying, give me a chance. He's already played in the Europa League against Braga and actually was pretty good, was very effective. In a similar way to Engels, if you think back to the Braga game, or if you go back and watch the highlights, Bernardo was one touch, go forward, play the ball forward. It was very simple and very direct. And that kind of thing was maybe missing in the midfield four. So again, I wouldn't rule out the qualities of Bernardo maybe somehow surfacing into this team. I thought Hatate was really bad at the weekend. Like we mentioned, Negren was actually substituted. So this whole area here, I think could be completely up for grabs. If something like Donovan did come in here, I wouldn't even rule out somebody like Tuneke maybe being even put into the picture here. Or maybe even somebody like Dyson perhaps if Iheanacho or Johnny Kenny were to come back into the fold. So I actually think the front area of the team is one of the most interesting. Now, if we look at just taking simply Negren out of the lineup from the weekend and we bring in Iheanacho, this could be like one change that makes like a bit of a difference. We've got that more of a predatory, fox in the box, clinical finisher on the end of the chances that we can create with the same structure and all the rest of it. And then you add Dyson in here for that extra kind of press element with him and Hatate. This feels like it could be really good because we've basically seen Dyson and Hatate play up front together, and to put a striker ahead of them feels like it could be really good. Feels like it could ask a big team, a strong team like Roma, a lot of really good questions. And if we look at how they'll line up, this is going to be a game of chicken. This is going to be a man-for-man battle all across the pitch, because make no mistake about it, this back three of Roma is very formidable, very strong, very powerful. And just having, for me anyway, just having like Dyson up against them, or Johnny Kenny, or just, you know, Iheanacho I think would be fine, because I think the support around him would be good. But I don't think, Dyson or Kenny or anything like that up against this back three is going to get any change out of them. You need someone that's got a bit of physicality shoulder to shoulder, and you need someone that can get half chances on target and make the most of scraps and bits and pieces. And guys like Hatate and Dyson are great at providing a platform for a guy like that. So I think like if you just made one tweak from the weekend on the premise that Negren was the first substitution, and fingers crossed that Iheanacho has been on the bench for the last 2 games. I tell you, like, out of the last 3 games he's been on the bench, but was it the Hearts game? There was one game recently where he actually didn't make the bench. No one really spoke about it. We did cover it on the channel quite briefly when we mentioned the post-match breakdown or whatever. So yeah, kind of jury's out on where Iheanacho is. So maybe having a wee argument you could even put Negren into that situation, but again, I'm not sure he's maybe got the strength, but I do think he's got the guile to maybe play ahead of Dyson and Rio in this type of shape rather than in support of them. Because the thing was here, pace, and even just playing with Yang, if he is going to stay on the right hand side with Tuneke on the left. This boy Celtic is the one to watch out for. I know a lot of people are chatting about Wesley, and I think Yang's probably one of the best shouts to kind of stop this guy physicality wise. Probably a bit of a stronger candidate than Kobe Donovan. But on the right hand side to stop Celtic, like, again, I probably want Yang, or maybe even Tierney. And again, just before we move on quickly, if we look at the middle of the pitch, Pellegrini's probably going to drop in a bit to make this a bit of a 3. So again, depending on how we're working this and how we're thinking about it, the middle of the pitch is going to be where the game is won and lost, which I think is why they go with Cristante and Coney, just 2 guys that it will take all of our kind of might to get around. Now, I don't think the manager is going to come into this game with an outwardly defensive approach, but if you are trying to think about stopping them first and then trying to think about how we could attack, moving Tierney into left wing back, you could shuffle over the rest of the back 3, bring in a Murray, a JSP, a Ralston, like we mentioned earlier, and maybe even add in somebody like a Donovan. Maybe even we just take out Murray for a second and we put Ralston in, because that could be an interesting kind of way to go about it. You get the proper kind of back 3 synergy here. You've got Trusty and the sweeper, which for his pace we want to see. And if you think about Scales in the middle of the weekend, he clearly had the task, the role, the responsibility of being a defensive midfielder at times. And like, if the back 3 was in line, Scales had the ability to jump into this space and really confront Hearts. So you really seen that and felt that through the game. And you feel that if this isn't a ball playing guy, which Scales wasn't at the weekend, like Nancy's previously had at the Crew and whatever, he's maybe asking them to be ball winners a bit more, be in here, be a bit more aggressive, with the other 2 then kind of compensating and covering in and behind. And I think Trusty's versatility, his pace, again, especially thinking about being against a Dybala who's probably going to roam into some different areas, that might work out quite well. You probably want Scales holding position, and with him and Tierney on this side here, you probably fancy that's a good operation to try and shut down what they'll do with the likes of Sula and Celtic, who again, if we're throwing people forward, they're going to be looking to just spring into this and isolate people. I'm not too convinced the manager does play defensively though, and I think if he was to go for some sort of mad kamikaze, some sort of all-out attack type thing, we could even see someone like Dyson Maeda come into left wing, left midfield situation. I heard Liam Carrigan bring this up, and I think a few of you guys have mentioned it in the comment section as well, but this is actually where Dyson plays for Japan at the moment. He does play at centre forward on occasion, but if he is starting for Japan, not coming off the bench for Ritsu Dohan or whatever. In the striker positions, like Asa Ueda in recent times, he'll start on the left here. And again, he'll just try and be like you've seen Taneke do for Celtic against Hearts. That's the sort of role he's going to do, where he's kind of in a front three, actually, when we're on the ball and we're attacking. But you ask him to do that defensive job coming back. And again, thinking of Roma, if you think about the best options we've got on both sides of the ball, Yang looks at the moment over the last game or two, particularly under the last game under Nancy. And Dyson over here could really put a good, a good number on Celtic here, who, again, Celtic for me is one of their main threats in this game that we have to be considering and thinking about. You can keep trusting in Scales and Tierney as a back three. I think that consistency will remain, as well as the engine room. But you just get a bit more. I don't think you get more out of Dyson than you get from Taneke, because Taneke at least has the ability to maybe skin a guy a bit more and play across, whereas Dyson is just more fear and tempo and energy and arriving in the flash of the blink of the flash of lightning, the blink of an eye, into a long ball 1v1 with the keeper, square it for a tap in, finish it yourself, that kind of gig. But you kind of need the Iheanacho to be fit for this, don't you? I don't think you can get away with Johnny Kenny up here. Would this maybe even open the door for like a Balaquisha perhaps, and Negren, some sort of other kind of solution to happen? I don't know. But Yang did well on the right. I think you could see him shutting down Wesley. If anyone's going to do it for us, I mean, this is all in kind of best case green tinted glasses scenario here. Your match prep if you're the manager. Dyson could shut down the left, but equally then you've got that ability to attack with them. Rio and Negren have a good synergy. They've played a lot of minutes essentially in this type of position under Brendan Rodgers above all, but Martin O'Neill, when Negren did come on, did play with Hatate, and this could work out kind of well. Personally, if you're asking me to pick the predicted team for the weekend, I think there's just going to be one tweak, and I think the tweak is going to be Yang over to the left and Donovan into the right. Personally, this is the team the way I see it coming out. And again, against the Roma team, I don't think Dyson's going to get a lot of change. I think if this is the way we go, we're going to be frustrated if we don't like open them up and start like a house on fire with our hair on fire, whatever the saying goes, and create a chance. And similar to was it the Leipzig game, or might even been Munich? We might have had a goal and it get chopped off early. I'm kind of getting my Champions Leagues mixed up from last year, but starting early, yeah, I think it was Nicholas Kuhn. I'm pretty sure was a big part of one of it. Starting early, yeah, it was Kuhn's goal, I'm sure, wasn't it? Against Bayern, maybe? Oh, I'm tripping there now. No, I'm not going to go and check it out, but you guys will remember the game I'm talking about. At home, you take your early chance in the first 10 minutes, you grab control of the match, and then you put them on the back foot. You ask them the big questions, and then this type of system, for them and for us, like if they get the lead, they're extra dangerous, because these guys will just Italian up. They will just sit in and be really deep and really hard to play against. And with Sula just looking for exits, with Dybala as well, they will just be get the ball, turn it over, and will they shell it long? You bet they will. Will they play a long diag that's actually pretty good? You bet they will. And if they get the first goal in this game, that will really play into their hands and maybe make things a bit tougher for us. And we'll see the tactics board come back out, and we'll see this kind of, again, we've kind of seen what Plan B looks like from Nancy, which is a kind of nice thing where he just went, that's the side of the pitch to focus on, make some changes and put like more bodies down the left hand side. Could be the same thing, could be the right hand side this time, whatever, and try and force the agenda, make things happen, don't wait for them to happen. So that could be again something to pay attention to in this one. But the first goal, I think against Hearts, the first goal was so crucial because so much of the crowd was like focused on the game, weren't they? I said this when I had the Huddle Breakdown guys on, but the Hearts game, it really felt like everyone in the stadium was like watching what is going on here, like what is the guy doing, trying to figure everything out in like a good way. And without having that goal to bring the crowd into the game, when the goal goes for Hearts, that's just it's just the undoing of us really from there. And I think that's a dynamic that really maybe the players should take more responsibility for coming into this game. That early doors, no messing about, and if it's that, like, square the ball for the tap in, make sure you get a good connection whatever it is, and just make sure we get that foothold in the game early. Because make no mistake about it, like you can see here, like if they get control of this game, it's going to ask us a lot of difficult questions. This could be a really good one, because as much as like Roma really need the points, and I think they'll be playing like this, like go there to win, Gasperini will not be taking us lightly. This as well as a game for us that, I don't want to use the term free hits, we've kind of mentioned it once or twice already with the Feyenoord game, and this is a bit different because of the manager. It doesn't really have any free hits, does he? But in terms of like, this is like, forget it's Roma in the sense of like, don't be worried about them, but if we can get joy in this game, like even if we lost 3-2 and we looked really good, that would probably do a lot for confidence that the system against lesser opponents, Europa League, domestically, should be a treat, should be working out quite quickly. So this could be a great way for the manager to get some easy win, some easy kind of buy-in from the team, from the fans, and from everyone involved. And that kind of mindset, you maybe don't go defensive, you maybe go a bit more offensive, and like, hey, if we lose 4-2, 3-2, 2-1, whatever, if we give it a good gusto and we look like we're in the game with looking different, to caveat it, it has to look like the team is developing, like, oh, you can see what this guy's doing now. He said in our couple of sessions, we can see the first 25 minutes of Hearts, it actually became the first 60 minutes of the game, whatever it is, then I think we can be quite content with that. But with the desperation of Roma at Celtic Park under the floodlights, you cannot rule out that we get something from this one. And if we do, it is massive going into the cup final. Does it kind of cure the ills of the Hearts points that we dropped? No, but I do think the mental gain, that intangible benefit of beating a team like Roma, of getting a positive result against them, will be worth its weight in gold. And if to get this result we had to get the bad result against Hearts, it might be one of those, like, it's not about winning and losing. If your performance metrics and your process driven rather than outcome driven, it could be one of those things where it really comes home to roost. I think this game is going to be very end to end. I just don't see any way around it. I think Roma could close it out Catenaccio style if they were to score first, don't get me wrong, but I think the general vibe of the game is going to be quite open. The goalkeeper is going to play a big part in this one, a big part. I fancy Schmeichel to come big with some saves in this one. Dybala is their front three is far more effective and creative than like Midtjylland and a lot of these other teams that we've played so far. So you really need your keeper to be on his toes the whole game. But for them, I've been talking about Evan Ndika is an absolute monster. Mario Hermoso, a proper Spanish centre-back. This guy is going to be getting booed. I can just feel it already. And although like the Italian generation we're in right now, it doesn't have Chiellinis and Maldinis around it, Mancini is, like, when you say Italian centre-back, Gianluca Mancini is that. Again, very dangerous from set pieces. Watch out for him. Back three is really solid, but Milos Villar is definitely up there, I would say, in the top two goalkeeping prospects in European football. And what I mean by that is, the next time you hear about a goalkeeper that goes for 40 million quid, it's either going to be him or one of three other guys, essentially. He's been having a great time at Roma, brought through by Jose Mourinho. A big guy, a big keeper. And again, if we do get some change out of the defence with Daisen Maeda and whatever, you need to be clinical in front of goal. I really do hope Iheanacho is available for this one, and maybe we can get balls in the back of the net. Essentially, we can score some goals. How do I think this game's going to go? I think I've kind of went through that. In terms of a score prediction, I don't see a clean sheet for either team. I do think we will score in this one. Looking at this, talking through it with you, previewing it, my gut tells me this is going to be, I can't predict us losing. This is the block I'm having right now. I'm going to go for this to be a 2-2 draw. I'm going to go for the draw. I'm going to take it. I'm going to imagine that we score first. I think that's quite plausible and possible. And I think from there we'll get to 2-2. I think it'll be a positive point. We'll play well. We'll maybe have a nice goal or two. They'll maybe score some sort of magic. I think this will be a good kind of festival of football. Any point that we get here is super valuable. And I think if we were to get like a positive outcome from this game, however you want to think of that as, it's kind of hard to imagine. Like, I think it could be like somebody like an Iheanacho or even a Tuneke if they were to start. Obviously, I say this every video, and I think after this one, if we don't see him, I'm going to stop saying his name. Balikwisha. There is a few guys here that could be genuine like hero makers out of a game like this if they were to start or get significant time to contribute to the game. But I'm looking at Engels in this game because I think that goal he scored, that header when he got battered, was a huge breakout moment for him, and he was really unfortunate, unlucky, poor, however you want to think of it as, to not score that opportunity against Hearts. And I don't think he's going to let that bother him. I think he's going to get up, he's going to dust himself off, and he's going to pick up where he left off, where he's been recently. And I think Engels is going to be the player that we come out of this game saying, he actually showed us again, like, oh wow, why can't we get that guy every weekend in some way, shape or form? Every week. At the weekend, like I say, I just feel like it was a bit discombobulated. I don't think he played bad necessarily, just didn't really do anything. And I think this is a great game where, against, shoulder to shoulder with the likes of Cristante and Manu Kone, you'll see what Engels brings to the party. And I think if the right openings present themselves, he's going to get into the box, he's going to do something. And again, thinking about these guys here, Engels has been really happy to get into the box, and he's a good guy to challenge with these guys when we are playing crosses in from deep or early crosses, depending on how advanced he gets in relation to the game and all that good stuff. So I'm going to go for Engels to be the standout, to be the man of the match. and I'm going to go for 2-2. My gut is telling me that I should be doing a prediction that would lose, but I just genuinely cannot do it. I hope you've enjoyed this one, guys. On screen and now some other stuff that we've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Do not forget to comment down below and let me know your score predictions and your man of the match shouts coming into this one, as well as the team. How do you think we're going to shape up? Who do you think gets selected from the start? What tweaks is the manager going to make? Looking forward to catching your thoughts and feelings. If you're going to the game, I hope you have a great time. Travel safe, hail, hail, and moan the hoops.